My sister-in-law threatened to steal my unborn child using her fake grief, so I helped her grief become real. My brother's wife, Natasha, discovered her ultimate weapon the day she lost her first pregnancy. If someone questioned her spending, she'd clutch her stomach and call them heartless. If anyone in the family shared good news, she'd flee the room sobbing that their joy was triggering her trauma. If my brother Marcus asked her to help with anything, she'd collapse dramatically, claiming the stress might cause another loss. What started as genuine grief quickly morphed into calculated manipulation. Natasha had found her golden ticket, and she was going to milk it for everything it was worth. The transformation was subtle at first. A tear here, a wounded look there. But soon, Natasha's grief became a weapon of mass destruction, leaving a trail of cancelled celebrations and silenced joy in its wake. She wielded her loss like a sword, cutting down anyone who dared to question her or steal her spotlight. I watched my family walk on eggshells around her, terrified of saying the wrong thing. Natasha had trained them well. Any mention of babies, pregnancy, or even the color pink could send her into hysterics. She'd perfected the art of victimhood, and we were all her unwilling audience. My mother, bless her heart, was Natasha's favorite target. Mom would bend over backward to accommodate her, changing plans, canceling events, and sacrificing her own happiness to keep the peace. It broke my heart to see my strong, independent mother reduced to tiptoeing around this emotional terrorist. But I had no idea how far Natasha would go until she set her sights on something that wasn't hers to take. Something that would reveal the true monster lurking beneath her grief-stricken facade. The first real sign of trouble came during Mom's 60th birthday planning. We'd spent weeks organizing the perfect celebration, a garden party with soft pink roses, Mom's favorite flower. The decorations were ordered, the caterers booked, and the guest list finalized. Everything was perfect. Then Natasha saw the pink roses. "You know pink triggers my trauma," she whispered to Marcus, her voice breaking with practiced precision. "The nursery was going to be pink. How can you expect me to sit surrounded by reminders of what I lost?" Within hours, Mom's milestone birthday party was cancelled. Instead of celebrating 6 decades of life, Mom spent her birthday comforting Natasha through another episode. I watched my mother's disappointment turn to resignation, and something cold settled in my chest. This wasn't grief anymore. This was war. Natasha's reign of terror escalated quickly after the birthday incident. She tasted power and found it intoxicating. Every family gathering became a minefield, every celebration a potential trigger for her manufactured trauma. My cousin Amanda learned this the hard way when she announced her pregnancy at Thanksgiving dinner. The room had filled with excited chatter and congratulations until Natasha's fork clattered to her plate. "How could you?" she gasped, pressing her hands to her chest. "You know what I've been through. You know how much this hurts me." Amanda's face crumpled. "Natasha, I didn't mean. You're rubbing your fertility in my face." Natasha shrieked, rising from her chair. "All of you are conspiring against me, flaunting your ability to carry children while I suffer in silence." She claimed the announcement triggered a panic attack, complete with hyperventilation and chest pains. The paramedics were called, and Amanda's joyous news was overshadowed by Natasha's dramatic performance. My poor cousin was so traumatized by the incident that she hid her entire pregnancy, afraid to share updates or even show her growing belly at family events. The Mercedes incident came next, and it was a masterclass in manipulation. Marcus had been doing well at his accounting firm, but $70,000 for a luxury car was still a stretch. When he gently explained they couldn't afford it, Natasha saw an opportunity. She dragged him to the BMW dealership in downtown Portland on a busy Saturday afternoon. Right there in the showroom, surrounded by other customers and sales staff, she collapsed into sobs. "I need a safe car for when we have our rainbow baby," she wailed, her voice echoing off the polished floors. "Don't you want our future child to be protected? Don't you care about our family's safety?" The sales staff looked mortified. Other customers stared. Marcus's face burned with embarrassment as Natasha's cries grew louder. "If you don't get me this car, I'll know you don't really want children with me," she sobbed. "I'll know you blame me for losing our baby. I can't stay married to someone who doesn't support my healing journey." Marcus signed the papers that day, his hands shaking as he committed to payments that would strain their budget for years. Natasha drove off the lot in her silver BMW X5, sunglasses on, tears mysteriously dried. But she wasn't done with me yet. My wedding was approaching, and Natasha had decided it was the perfect stage for her next performance. Planning my wedding to David should have been the happiest time of my life. Instead, it became a nightmare orchestrated by Natasha's twisted need for attention. It started with the flowers. I'd chosen white roses and baby's breath for the church arrangements. Classic, elegant, and meaningful since David had proposed in Mom's rose garden. But when Natasha heard about my floral choices, she launched into action. She called Bloom and Blossom, my florist, claiming to be my maid of honor with urgent concerns about the arrangements. Isabella doesn't realize this, but white flowers can trigger miscarriages in sensitive women, she told poor Mrs. Henderson, who'd been doing wedding flowers for 30 years. I'm pregnant and very high risk. Being around those flowers could cause me to lose another baby. Surely you understand the liability issues here. Mrs. Henderson called me in a panic, worried about insurance and potential lawsuits. It took hours to straighten out the confusion and convince her that Natasha had no medical authority or legitimate concerns. But Natasha wasn't finished. She found the Not forum where I'd shared photos of my dress and posted a scathing comment under fake account, "This bride is a baby killer." She knows her flower choices will cause miscarriages but doesn't care. She's celebrating her fertility while mocking women who've lost children. Someone needs to stop this monster before she hurts innocent babies. The post went viral in the worst way. I received dozens of hate messages from strangers who believed Natasha's lies. My inbox filled with accusations and threats. The stress was overwhelming, and David found me crying over my laptop more nights than I care to remember. The final straw came when Natasha demanded I change my wedding date. She'd calculated that my chosen Saturday fell 2 weeks after her miscarriage anniversary. Close enough, in her twisted logic, to be deliberately hurtful. "You picked that date to mock my loss," she accused during a family dinner. "You want to celebrate your happiness right when I'm remembering my darkest day. It's cruel and calculated." When I refused to change the date, invitations were already sent, venues booked, and vendors contracted. Natasha pulled out her nuclear option. She told everyone who would listen that my selfishness had caused her to lose twins. Not just one baby, but twins. The story grew more elaborate with each telling. She'd been in early pregnancy, hadn't told anyone yet because of her previous loss, but the stress of my wedding drama had caused another devastating miscarriage. The family rallied around her, and suddenly I was the villain in my own love story. Relatives who should have been celebrating with me were instead offering Natasha their condolences and shooting me disapproving looks. My wedding day arrived under a cloud of family tension and manufactured drama. But I had no idea that Natasha's most sinister plan was still to come. 4 months after my wedding, I discovered I was pregnant. David and I had been trying, but when I saw those 2 pink lines, the reality hit like lightning. We were going to be parents. I wanted to shout it from the rooftops, but something held me back. Maybe it was watching what Natasha had done to Amanda's announcement, or maybe it was intuition warning me to be careful. Whatever the reason, I decided to keep the news quiet until I was further along. I was careful, or so I thought. I switched to decaf coffee, declined wine at dinner, and started taking prenatal vitamins discreetly. But Natasha had always been observant, especially when it came to finding ammunition she could use against others. It was a Tuesday morning when she cornered me outside Dr. Peterson's office in the Riverside Medical Plaza. I just finished my first prenatal appointment, my heart still fluttering from hearing the baby's heartbeat, when I saw her BMW parked next to my Honda Civic. "Isabella," she called sweetly, approaching with the predatory smile I'd learned to fear. "Fancy meeting you here." My blood ran cold. The medical plaza housed several practices, but the timing was too convenient to be coincidental. She'd been watching me, tracking my movements, waiting for confirmation of her suspicions. "I know you're pregnant," she said calmly, her voice devoid of the usual theatrical emotion. This was Natasha without her mask, and it was terrifying. "Here's what's going to happen." She stepped closer, forcing me back against my car. Her eyes were bright with excitement, like a cat that had cornered a mouse. "You're going to tell everyone you're carrying a baby for me as a surrogate. You'll give birth, hand the baby to me, and I'll finally be the mother everyone pities me for not being." I laughed, actually laughed, because the alternative was screaming. The suggestion was so absurd, so completely insane, that surely she had to be joking. But Natasha's expression didn't change. "I'm serious, Isabella. This is my chance. My opportunity to finally have the happy ending I deserve after everything I've been through." "You're crazy," I whispered, my hand instinctively moving to protect my still flat stomach. "This is my baby. Mine and David's. Natasha's smile widened, and she pulled out her phone. The screen showed a draft email addressed to my supervisor at Peterson Elementary, where I taught 3rd grade. If you refuse, she continued conversationally, I'll tell everyone you've been mocking my miscarriages throughout your entire pregnancy. I'll explain how you've been cruel and heartless, laughing at my pain while secretly carrying your own child. She swiped to the next screen, screenshots of text conversations between us. But they weren't real. She'd somehow edited our messages, making it look like I'd called her infertile and made jokes about her losses. I've been planning this for weeks, she said proudly, as if she was showing off a craft project. I have emails ready to send to your principal, your husband's law firm, even your pastor. Everyone will know what kind of person you really are. My legs felt weak. She'd been watching me, documenting my movements, building a case against me like some deranged prosecutor. Besides, she added with sickening sweetness, you can always have another one. You're young and obviously fertile. But this might be my only chance at motherhood. Standing there in that parking lot, with my hand pressed protectively over the tiny life growing inside me, I felt rage unlike anything I'd ever experienced. This woman wanted to steal my child, actually steal my baby, and she'd been planning it for weeks. But as the initial shock faded, a cold clarity settled over me. Natasha had made one crucial mistake in her elaborate scheme. She'd shown me her hand. Driving home from that parking lot encounter, my hands trembled on the steering wheel. But beneath the fear and rage, a plan was forming. Natasha thought she was clever, but her arrogance had made her sloppy. Those fake text messages and threatening emails? She'd created evidence of her own crimes. The timestamps would show when she'd edited our conversations, and any digital forensics expert could prove the messages were fabricated. More importantly, she'd made her demands in writing, creating a paper trail of extortion and attempted kidnapping. But I needed more than evidence. I needed a witness who would believe me over Natasha's practiced victim act. Someone who knew her intimately enough to recognize the manipulation beneath her tears. Marcus. My brother had been Natasha's primary victim for 3 years, absorbing her emotional abuse and enabling her behavior out of guilt and love. But he was also a forensic accountant, trained to spot deception and follow evidence trails. If I could show him proof of Natasha's true nature, his analytical mind might overcome his emotional blindness. I called his office the next morning, trying to keep my voice steady. Marcus, I need to meet with you. It's about Natasha and something she's proposing. About surrogacy. Surrogacy. His confusion was genuine. Isabella, what are you talking about? Can we meet at your office today? It's important. It's about my pregnancy. There was silence on the line. Then, you're what? Perfect. Even Marcus didn't know about the baby, which meant Natasha had been planning this scheme without his knowledge or consent. That afternoon, I sat across from my brother in his corner office overlooking the Willamette River. The space was exactly what you'd expect from a CPA, organized, professional, and filled with degrees and certifications that testified to his attention to detail. I took a shaky breath and launched into my performance. Marcus, I need your help. Natasha came to me yesterday with a proposition, and I'm scared. I let my voice break, channeling the real terror I'd felt in that parking lot. She wants me to be a surrogate for you too. Marcus frowned. We never discussed surrogacy. We're not even actively trying to conceive right now. That's not what she told me. I pulled out my phone, showing him Natasha's threatening text about taking my baby. She said this was her only chance at motherhood, and that I should be willing to help family. I watched my brother's face change as he read the message. His analytical mind was processing the information, cross-referencing it with what he knew about his own life and marriage. Isabella, these timestamps. He looked up at me, his face pale. This is from yesterday morning. Natasha was with me at Washington Square Mall when this was sent. She was trying on dresses while I waited outside the fitting room. The realization hit him like a physical blow. His wife had been plotting to steal his sister's baby while shopping for clothes right beside him. The betrayal was written across his face in real time. There's more, I whispered, showing him the fabricated text messages and draft emails. She's been planning this for weeks. She has fake evidence to destroy my reputation if I don't comply. Marcus spent several minutes examining the screenshots, his accountant's eye catching details that might escape others. Message threads that didn't align with our actual conversation history. Time stamps that coincided with moments when Natasha had been with him. Digital fingerprints that revealed the elaborate deception she'd constructed. "My God," he whispered. "How long has she been doing this? How much of our marriage has been built on lies?" I reached across the desk and took his hand. "Marcus, I need you to help me expose her. But it has to be public, in front of the whole family. If it's just your word against hers, she'll find a way to spin it." He nodded slowly, his face hardening with resolve. "Mother's Day dinner is this weekend. The whole family will be there, including Amanda and Mom. It's Natasha's favorite stage for sympathy performances." "Perfect," I said, though my heart was racing. "We'll give her the audience she craves. But this time, she'll be the one getting exposed." As I left Marcus's office that day, I felt the baby flutter for the first time, a tiny reminder of what I was fighting for. Natasha thought she could steal my child and destroy my life. She was about to learn how wrong she was. Mother's Day arrived with perfect Portland weather, warm sunshine and blooming roses that would have made any other family gathering magical. Mom had planned a barbecue at her house in Laurelhurst, complete with her famous potato salad and Marcus's specialty ribs on the grill. I arrived fashionably late, my 7-month belly now impossible to hide beneath my flowing sundress. The timing was intentional. I wanted everyone to see my pregnancy before the fireworks began. Natasha's eyes locked onto my bump the moment I walked through the sliding glass door onto the deck. I watched her mental calculations, the quick assessment of my size and her opportunities for drama. "Oh my goodness, Isabella!" Aunt Patricia exclaimed, rushing over with outstretched arms. "You're pregnant. Why didn't you tell us sooner?" The family gathered around, offering congratulations and asking about due dates. It should have been a beautiful moment of shared joy, but I could feel Natasha's tension radiating across the deck like heat from a furnace. "I can't believe no one told me," she said loudly, cutting through the happy chatter. "Seeing Isabella's belly is triggering severe cramping. The visual reminder of pregnancy is causing me physical pain." Here we go, I thought. Classic Natasha, already spinning my presence into her trauma narrative. She pressed her hands to her lower abdomen, her face contorting in practiced agony. "I think I need to lie down. The stress of seeing what I can't have is making me bleed." Several family members moved toward her with concern, but Marcus stepped forward before anyone could reach her. "Actually, I have something to say first," he announced, his voice carrying the authority of a man who'd made a difficult decision. "Before anyone comforts Natasha, you all need to know what she's been doing to this family." The deck fell silent. Even the neighbor's dog stopped barking. Marcus pulled out his phone, his hand steady despite the magnitude of what he was about to do. "Natasha tried to force Isabella to give her our baby. She threatened to destroy my sister's life if she refused." "What?" Mom gasped, her hand flying to her chest. "She's been planning this for weeks," Marcus continued, his voice growing stronger. "She has fake text messages, fraudulent emails, and an elaborate scheme to steal my sister's child." He began reading Natasha's messages aloud, each word falling like a hammer blow on the assembled family. The demand that I hand over my baby. The threats to destroy my career and marriage. The calculated manipulation she'd constructed like a spider's web. I watched our relatives' faces change as the truth sank in. Amanda's eyes filled with tears of recognition. She was remembering her own pregnancy announcement and the trauma that followed. Mom's expression shifted from confusion to horror to rage. Natasha looked around the circle of faces, seeing her victims finally connecting the dots. For 3 years, she'd manipulated these people, stolen their joy, cancelled their celebrations, and held them hostage to her manufactured grief. Her empire of fake sympathy was crumbling in real time. "You don't understand," she said desperately, clutching her stomach. "The stress of this confrontation is causing me to have contractions. I think I'm miscarrying again. Someone needs to call 911. But nobody moved to help her. Nobody reached for their phone. The family that had once jumped at her every sob now stood watching her performance with clear eyes. And that's when Natasha realized her facade was completely shattered. The mask she'd worn for 3 years fell away, revealing the calculating predator underneath. Her face twisted with rage, and she lunged toward the kitchen. "Fine," she screamed, grabbing a steak knife from the counter. "If you won't give me what I deserve, I'll take it myself." She charged at me, the blade aimed at my belly, shrieking that she deserved my baby more than I did. Amanda yanked me backward as Marcus dove for his wife, wrestling for control of the knife. Mom, all 5 feet 2 inches of her, slapped Natasha across the face with a crack that echoed across the deck. "You stay away from my daughter and grandchild," she roared. Natasha went down dramatically, still performing even as neighbor Tom called 911 and someone restrained her arms. She wailed about losing another baby, about the family's cruelty, about everyone conspiring against her. Even while being arrested for assault with a deadly weapon, she couldn't stop the show. But her audience had finally seen through the act. The aftermath moved swiftly. While Natasha sat in the Multnomah County Jail awaiting arraignment, Marcus filed for divorce and a restraining order. The evidence we'd gathered, her extortion attempts, the fake messages, the documented threats, painted a clear picture of calculated abuse and attempted kidnapping. Her public defender tried to negotiate a plea deal, claiming pregnancy hormones had made her temporarily unstable. The prosecutor wasn't buying it, especially with our digital evidence showing weeks of premeditation. In the end, Natasha pled no contest to assault with a deadly weapon and attempted extortion. She received 18 months of supervised probation, mandatory psychological counseling, and a permanent restraining order keeping her away from our family. But perhaps more importantly, she lost her audience. The family members who had once tiptoed around her emotions, who had cancelled celebrations and hidden their joy to accommodate her trauma, finally understood they'd been manipulated. The guilt that had driven their behavior evaporated, replaced by anger at their own victimization. Marcus struggled with the divorce proceedings, grappling with the realization that his marriage had been built on lies and manipulation. He genuinely loved Natasha, had believed in her pain, and discovering the depth of her deception left him questioning everything about their relationship. "How did I not see it?" he asked during one of our coffee meetings at Stumptown. "How did I enable someone who was capable of trying to steal your baby?" "Because you're a good person," I told him. "You saw someone in pain and wanted to help. Natasha weaponized your compassion." The divorce was finalized just before my due date. Marcus kept the house but had to sell the BMW, a decision that somehow felt symbolic of breaking free from Natasha's expensive manipulation. My daughter Emma was born on a crisp October morning, healthy and perfect and undeniably mine. Holding her for the first time, I thought about how close I'd come to losing her to someone else's twisted scheme. The family rallied around Emma's arrival with the enthusiasm that had been suppressed for years. Mom threw the baby shower she'd never been allowed to plan. Amanda finally shared her pregnancy photos publicly, no longer hiding her joy in shame. The celebrations were louder, brighter, and more genuine than they'd been since Natasha entered our lives. Marcus became the most devoted uncle, as if loving Emma could somehow atone for his ex-wife's attempts to steal her. He'd arrive for visits with armfuls of toys and books, determined to give his niece all the love and protection he hadn't been able to offer when she was still in my womb. As for Natasha, she moved to Salem after her probation ended, quickly finding a new boyfriend named Kevin who was apparently unaware of her criminal history. According to mutual friends, she'd already started telling his family about her tragic miscarriages and how her ex-husband's family had abused her for grieving. Some people never change. They just find new victims. But for the first time in 3 years, our family was free. Free to celebrate without fear, to share good news without shame, and to love without walking on eggshells around someone's manufactured trauma. Watching Emma sleep in her crib, I reflected on how Natasha's greatest mistake had been threatening the wrong person's child. She'd built her power on emotional manipulation, but when she tried to steal my baby, she crossed a line that awakened something fiercer than her fake grief could ever be. Maternal instinct had trumped manufactured trauma. And in the end, I'd helped make her grief real, the genuine loss of her marriage, her victim status, and her captive audience. Sometimes the best revenge is simply exposing the truth.